Edith sat by the window, her laptop glowing softly in the dim light of her cozy apartment. The rain tapped gently against the glass, a soothing rhythm that matched the quiet joy in her heart. She opened a blank document and paused, her fingers hovering over the keys. This was a story she had been meaning to write for a long time, a story about love, healing, and the unexpected ways life can surprise you. She took a deep breath and began. 2 years ago, Edith's world felt like it was crumbling. Anxiety had been her constant companion for as long as she could remember, but it had grown worse after a series of personal setbacks. Depression had crept in, wrapping its heavy arms around her, until even the simplest tasks felt insurmountable. She felt alone, even in a room full of people. Her friends tried to understand, but they couldn't quite grasp the weight of what she was carrying. One particularly difficult day, Edith stumbled upon an online post about an organization called anxietyfriends.com. It was a support group for people struggling with anxiety and depression, offering a safe space to share experiences and connect with others who understood. Desperate for a lifeline, she signed up for their next virtual meeting. That decision changed everything. Edith's hands trembled as she clicked the link to join the Zoom call. Her screen filled with faces, some smiling, some nervous, all kind. The facilitator, a warm and confident man named Thomas, welcomed everyone and encouraged them to share as much or as little as they felt comfortable with. When it was Edith's turn, she hesitated, but something about the group's energy made her feel safe. She began to speak, her voice shaky at first, but growing stronger as she shared her story. When she finished, the group responded with empathy and encouragement. For the first time in months, Edith felt seen. And then there was Jack. He was the last to speak. His voice was calm and steady, but his words carried a vulnerability that resonated deeply with Edith. He talked about his own struggles with anxiety, how it had affected his relationships and career, and how he was learning to be kinder to himself. There was a quiet strength in the way he spoke, and Edith found herself drawn to his honesty. After the meeting, Jack sent her a private message. "Hey, I just wanted to say that what you shared really resonated with me. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Edith smiled for the first time in weeks. Over the next few months, Edith and Jack became regulars at the anxietyfriends.com meetings. They started chatting outside the group, first about their struggles, then about their interests, dreams, and favorite books. Edith discovered that Jack had a dry sense of humor that made her laugh, even on her darkest days. He loved hiking, photography, and had a soft spot for old jazz records. She, in turn, shared her love for writing, baking, and stargazing. Their conversations became a lifeline for both of them. They encouraged each other to practice self-care and celebrate small victories. Edith began to notice the shadows in her mind lifting, bit by bit. She wasn't fixed. She knew healing wasn't linear, but she felt hopeful. One evening, after a particularly heartfelt conversation, Jack said, "You know, Edith, talking to you feels like coming home." Her heart skipped a beat. Jack decided to make a trip to see Edith in person. Their first date was at a quiet little cafe tucked away in the city. Edith was nervous. What if the connection they had online didn't translate in person? But the moment she saw Jack, all her worries melted away. He was taller than she'd imagined, with kind eyes and a smile that made her feel at ease. They talked for hours, losing track of time. Edith told him about her dream of writing a novel, and Jack shared his goal of photographing the Northern Lights. They laughed, they cried, and they held hands across the table, both marveling at how far they'd come. As they walked home that night, Jack stopped under a street lamp and turned to her. "Edith," he said softly, "I know we've both been through a lot, but meeting you feels like the universe giving me a second chance. I'm so grateful for you." Tears welled up in her eyes as she replied, "I'm grateful for you too, Jack. You've brought so much light into my life." Edith paused her typing and looked out the window. The rain had stopped, and a rainbow stretched across the sky. She smiled, thinking about how far she and Jack had come. They were now living together in this little apartment, surrounded by books, photographs, and the warmth of their shared love. Jack walked into the room, carrying 2 mugs of hot cocoa. "What are you working on?" he asked, setting a mug down beside her. "Our story," she replied, turning to him with a smile. "The story of how we found each other in the middle of the storm." He kissed the top of her head and sat down beside her. "It's a good story," he said, "but I think the best part is that it's still being written." Edith leaned into him, her heart full. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she also knew they would face them together. For the first time in her life, she felt truly happy. She turned back to her laptop and typed the final words. Love doesn't always come when or how you expect it. Sometimes it finds you in the shadows, when you least expect it, and reminds you that even in the darkest moments, there is light. And sometimes that light has a name. Mine is Jack.